All you.
Got it. I see it. Well, hello, everybody. My name is Jack Long. I'm going to be the trainer tonight and for the second session, and then probably again for your on field. It's wonderful to have you. There's nothing better than adding new officials to our roster. I will tell you, selfishly, our goal is to not necessarily get you officiating youth, but to nurture you along and hopefully turn you into high school and college officials at some point in your career. So that's ultimately the goal. I'll be honest there. But I think it's a great opportunity to be able to do this and to be able to have a live session. Now, for the session itself, the whole idea, I have a PowerPoint. We'll be going through it, and you'll see a lot of pictures and things. We're going to talk about rules, but we're going to talk more so about mechanics, because you can spend your time in the rule book and learn the rules. But it's really figuring out, okay, I understand the rule book, but what the heck do I do? And we have slides talking about it. I think the real benefit here is going to be able to be looking at the slides and talking about it and have you being able to ask questions. So as I mentioned earlier, we are going to leave, the mics are open. So hopefully you don't have anything going on in the background to distract us, but feel free to chime in and feel free to ask a question. If I'm not making myself clear, or you don't understand, or you have a situation you'd like to throw out, by all means, go ahead and do that. If I will tell you, and as I was mentioning to Brian earlier, I am not a youth guru, only because I haven't done youth games to any great extent for a good number of years. I'm primarily a college and high school official, which you probably don't realize is quite a bit different rule set. So if I have a brain cramp and get hooked up with college rules or something, you can just throw it out and let me know. But if there's a question that does come up that we can't answer right here, I'll make a note of it and we'll bring it up the next time on our next session in a couple weeks. In the note that was originally sent out when you signed up for this, a couple of things I would hope that either you've done or will be in the process of doing. Number one, you got to get your hands on a rule book. And, I honestly don't know. I know you guys are signed up as players for the most part in US lacrosse, or at least most people are. You're going to have to go in and edit your profile and make sure that you're down as an official as well. And I think I saw that US Lacrosse is not giving out free rule books. I have an impression that they're making you buy them, and that's whether you want a paper or an online version. To be honest, I've gone to taking where I do it online and I load it onto my phone and or an iPad in a book format. And that way I can, whether I'm taking the tests or I'm going to the field, if I need to look something up, I can go to book format on my iPhone and look it up through the search function. So number one, you got to get your hands on a rule book, an actual girls lacrosse 2024 rule book. The other thing is, as part of your membership with US Lacrosse, there's some other things that you can get as well. One, I think I listed in the things that I would like is there's a 2024 girls youth rules comparison, which lays out the rules for each of the different categories. Uh, for the most part, and again, I could be wrong. So, some of you might know, but I think that the lowest level we typically do is what they designate as maybe I think it's 10U or something, youth 10. But probably the majority of the games would either be the 12 or the 14. So it just helps you keep track of what the actual rules are at the different games that you'll be doing. And then the other thing is there is a girls youth rule guidebook. And that again lays out the actual rules for the different levels of youth that you'll come across. So all of those things are available via US Lacrosse. So I'd encourage you to go in there. Again, make sure you have your membership, and then you can go exploring under rules, under your own profile. Plus, you'll see as you start doing this stuff and fulfilling the online commitments that US Lacrosse has, you'll be able to look in your profile and see that you've actually completed them. So I'd encourage you to go in there and look at that. And we'll possibly in the second session, we may go and take a look at some of that stuff. So with that, I'm going to get started here. All right. So what is the goal of this training? Um, and I asked before we got started why people want to be an official, and I would hope most people choose to do so because they like lacrosse. I mean, it's a fun game. It's an awesome game. It gives you something to do. And to be honest, it's a great job. I was sharing earlier that my two sons actually never had a real job during high school. They were officials, and they made a bunch of money both during the season and during the summer, and never had to, put on a fast food uniform ever and do it. And they loved it. They kept them busy. So the goal here is to help you get started. And the important thing is that we help you so that you can do this long term. So many people, unfortunately, get into it and choose to give it up because it's not their cup of tea. And usually I think that's oftentimes a failure on us doing the training to give you the skills you need to be able to go out there and be successful officiating. You will learn pretty quickly that it's very different than playing. And to be honest, I think some of you will find that umpiring or refereeing, however, whichever, can be just as much fun as playing, maybe even more so, depending on how you look at it. So again, it's that we are here to help you, and the whole goal of this training is to give you what you need to be able to be successful in doing this. All right. I don't think there's ever been a youth official in training that didn't have pretty much all of these questions. I mean, God, I've trained new high school officials that have these questions. Where should they be on the field? I mean, you send them out there and it's like a chicken with their head cut off for the first game. Where am I supposed to go? Where am I supposed to stand? What am I supposed to do? Girls lacrosse, and I think I'm assuming most of you play. But there's all sorts of crazy fouls. I mean, it's such a subjective game in a lot of cases, and there's all sorts of these different kinds of fouls. Well, wonderful. But what do I do when I call one? I know that was my first year in girls lacrosse. I remember thinking, okay, I saw that, but boy, I'm scared to call it because I don't know what the hell to do once I blow my whistle, and I'm going to look like an idiot. Or I think I saw something. And by the time I convince myself that I actually saw something, the ball is 60 yards down the field and it's too late. So again, a very legitimate question. Again, here goes into the other one. How do I know which fouls have which setups? I mean, that is scary. I know some people, when you get to the point where you start recognizing the fouls, okay, I just saw a cover or I saw a slash. They're afraid to call it because they don't know how to set it up and because it just seems so complicated as to how they set up the foul. So again, they don't blow their whistle because they're afraid they don't know how to set it up. And now with a lot of the rules, I mean, how do I facilitate self-starts? What about the boundaries, draws and timeouts? It can just become so overwhelming or seem so that's, again, part of our big goal is to help you through those things. And then the last one, and could be the most important, how do I deal with the idiots on the sidelines? And I'm going to say that laughingly, I'm kidding, truly, because most of the time, everything is wonderful. But it's going to be one of those games where you're going to have some parent that just doesn't understand the game, or a coach that's never coached before who just doesn't understand what you're doing. And you need the skill set, the ability, the tools to be able to deal with them in a good way so that everybody learns and that everybody walks off the field with a good experience. So again, part of this training is to really leave you or help you to be able to do that. Most of the games you're going to do are going to be two-person, especially at youth. Now, when you get to high school, and I know the Madison area typically has tried to do three-person in high school games, but that's a challenge because typically we don't have enough officials to be able to put three people on every game. But in youth, generally, you're going to have either one For the really, really tiny kids, where it's just a gaggle of kids running around the field that have no clue as to what's going on, they'll put one official on. And that's oftentimes that's a great game because you get paid a lot to do the one person game with the little kids. So don't avoid the little kids; they pay well. And then the other games as they go up, they're typically going to require and most times put two people on, and that's what we call the two-person system. Again, most of you that have played recognize that you typically have a ref on each side of the field calling the game. So that's what we're going to really focus on for today, anyway. So you're going to be an official, and you got to think about it. What is the actual role? Why is an official out there? And you can see across the top here that, you know, and I guess it's who you talk to as to which of these things are most important. Uh, and I would tell you it probably has something to do with the levels you're going to be working at. Uh, in youth sports in general, but in youth girls lacrosse, I would tell you that the youngest kids, the most important thing is fun. You're out there to keep it going, keep it fun, keep them engaged so that they want to continue playing. I mean, so fun is huge. So you're kind of the ringmaster in making that whole experience for them fun. The last thing we want is to have them have a negative experience, whether that be caused by the game just not going the way it should. Certainly safety. And this, as you start moving up in levels up to the 14-year-olds or the older youth officials, safety is huge because part of the issue becomes now you have girls that are getting bigger, they're faster, they're playing with a full field, they're playing full equipment. uh, and yet they still don't really have a lot of skills. Okay, their skills have not come along quite yet, so they don't have real great control of the stick. They don't always understand the rules. They may have a parent on the sideline screaming at them, to go out and hit somebody or some other ridiculous thing. So safety, that's going to be at least partially your responsibility. Now, I would suggest that, certainly coaching plays a huge role in safety. But as an official, we're the ones that can at least manage the game for safety. And then really the last thing, honestly, and this gets up into the higher levels where now they're starting to play and they're keeping score and they're keeping stats and all that stuff to make it fair. Just a team that's been coached in a certain way that is not following the rules. It makes it unfair for the other team who was not coached in the same way and following the rules. So again, depending on the level, safety, fairness, and fun, without a doubt. All right, so positioning, and that was the first thing we talked about. Where are you supposed to be? And to be honest, more importantly, why? And this is one of the big things that I run into when oftentimes I'll do games with younger officials, and I'll go out and okay, they were supposed to have been trained and they went through everything, and we start the game, and the next thing I know, I'm passing them on the field. I'm on the other side, but I'm already past them, running down the field to get in my position as trail. And it's like, okay, wait a minute. You're the lead. You're supposed to be lead down in the critical scoring area. And yet I've just passed you midfield and I watch and they've stopped. And so there are places that you are supposed to be. You're going to learn that you're going to call a better game when you're in the right position. And you're going to find that coaches and parents and everybody watching the game is going to be a lot more likely to believe the calls you're making when you're in the right spot. So there are places that you are supposed to be. So let's take a look at this. Here's a field, and here's some of the officials. Now, if you can see the scorers table on the top there. So the scorers table is set up, and typically all youth games will have a table. Your sub boxes are on either side of the scorers table. Now, here it says the more experienced of the team officials typically would be table side. Now, I'm guessing in most of these youth games, you're going to have two of you who are relatively new. So there may not be a more experienced team member, but the table side official, the one over near the squirrels table, would line up where that one on the top side is. Okay, actually, they'd be typically inside the restraining line. They would be typically where I'm pointing now to set up. And the reason why the more experienced person is here is because they're on the coach's side. That's the coaches. If the coaches are going to be yelling or asking questions and things like that, you typically want the more seasoned person, the experienced person, to be closest to that side, because you're going to hear more of the stuff that's going on the sidelines. Okay. So obviously now, okay, we'll run the coaches and captains meeting. Again, this doesn't matter. You're probably not going to have a lead official per se when you're doing youth games, but one of you will run the coaches captains meetings. So let's just talk about that a little bit. You're going to show up at the field. Now, typically, I will tell you that, you know, at a youth game, you're probably best off to be showing up 30 minutes ahead of time. You should be there first because you have certain responsibilities that you are required to make. I mean, and that's to make sure the field is marked so that you understand the markings are there. Make sure the field is safe. Are there nets set up? Is there an arc and a fan? Are there actual boundaries? You'd be surprised how many times you show up and some of those things aren't done. So 30 minutes ahead of time. And let me bring up another point, and excuse me if I'm out of order, but let's say you have a game this coming Saturday. You should be communicating. I don't care whether you phone them, text them, email them, but you should be communicating with your partner at least a day ahead of the game saying, hey, I'm Jack. We're working together at Craig at 9 o'clock on Saturday morning. And typically your partner will respond. And the whole reason for doing that is I can't tell you how many times, number one, either the person didn't know they were assigned, they had the school wrong, they had the time wrong. Whereas if you're checking with your partner, a day before, at least you can alleviate those problems by communication. So I would encourage you, even at the youth level, make sure you talk to your partner in some way to confirm that you both understand the time and the place that you're both going to show up. Okay, so back to the coaches meeting. So you're going to get there typically 10 minutes, and time management is a big thing. You're getting paid to be on the field from X time to, let's say from 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock. I mean, that's what you're getting paid for. So wasting time during the game because it's not managed properly is only eating into your free time. So you want to get a game started on time. So if the game time is 1 o'clock, I would typically at least 10 minutes ahead of time, I'm getting the coaches out there on the field to have your coaches talk. And that's where you're going to certify the coaches, make sure that they will certify that their players are all legally equipped, and they need to tell you yes, because that is what is giving you, that's basically putting the liability for the players' equipment all on them. So coaches, are your players all legally equipped and ready to play according to the rule book? And they are required to say yes. If you have somebody says, to the best of my knowledge, say, no, coach, that's not acceptable. I need a yes. Okay, so you need to get them right off the bat that you're running the show and there are certain requirements that need to be met. You can ask them if there's any questions. Usually at the youth level, especially because sometimes I show up and I have no clue as to what ages I'm doing. I'll say, coaches, what rules are you, what do you believe we're doing here? What rule level are we at? And typically the coaches will tell, well, these are 8s or whatever, we're going to do 7v7. And once you have that, and that's where the rule comparison and the girls' rule guide comes in handy, because it should tell you what the basic rules are. But there's a lot of times where coaches will say, well, we do this. And I'm perfectly fine as long as it's within the rule books, the rules of US lacrosse. I'm okay doing it. I just want to make sure both coaches understand exactly what's going to happen on this field and how you're going to call it, because you need to make sure. Because I can't tell you how many times I'll show up and, all of a sudden I'm hearing, oh, that's one, that's two, and they're doing this two pass rule. And okay, you need to know that, because I mean, otherwise, because it becomes your responsibility to, okay, was that a goal or was that not a goal? Because they didn't follow the two pass rule. So again, in the coaches meeting, make sure you understand what exactly is being played, what rules you're going to be following, and that you and your partner know how you're going to call the game. Let the coaches ask any questions. I mean, sometimes they may say, I was at a game the other day and somebody called this. Well, you're going to do the best you can to answer their question using the language of the rule book, and try to get them the right answer, because you can't always guarantee that whatever question they have, it was dealt with properly previously, especially if you hear the question and you know that whatever was done was wrong. So be ready to be able to answer a coach's question, prior to the start of the game. So again, you and your partner will be able to deal with it. You'll want to talk to, make sure there's a timer, or whether you're doing a timing. And later on, there's a slide about equipment. But I would encourage you, you need to show up with a watch. And I don't know, most people, I think a lot of people have, whether it be an Apple Watch or some other kind of timing watch. It's a good investment to make, because you may be timing the quarters, so you need to have a watch to be able to do that, because not I tell you, an awful lot of youth games, especially the little tiny kids, there's not a timer, their clock doesn't work, people don't know what they're doing, so you end up timing pretty often. So make sure you get yourself a good watch. Remember, everything, I digress out on a tangent, but also we'll talk about uniforms. But everything you buy uh, for lacrosse is now going to become a deduction when you or your parents do your taxes. So if you start making enough money where you're going to start paying taxes, and you may very well, all of these things are going to be deducted from that income. So keep track of anything you buy, whether it be watch, or shoes, jerseys, cards, all these things. Keep track of them, because you're going to be able to deduct them as expenses against your officiating. Okay, let's see. All right. Once the coaches are done, you're going to have your captain's meeting. And this is where, if you've all played, this is where you're going to, toss the coin. So that's one other thing you need in your bag when you show up, is a coin. Get something big enough that you can, so you have it with you, keep it in your bag. I will tell you, don't hand it to anybody, because they will take them. I can't tell you how many coins you lose over time. So get yourself a coin that you like, that you know the heads, the tails, and you'll do a coin toss. Okay, so the visitor will always make the selection. So you have to figure out either who the visitor is. That should be listed on your assignment. And you're going to say, okay, we're going to do a coin toss. And you can either ask them ahead of time or have them do it in the air. You flip the coin. They will tell you heads or tails. The coin will go to the ground. And whether it's heads or tails, if they win, the winner, if the visitors picked it properly, they get to either pick AP or an end of the field to defend. So they'll ask that, and then the other team will pick the one that was not selected. Okay. Once that is done, remember, we're still in this 10 minutes, you'll want to get started with your stick checks. So hopefully with two of you, you can each divide yourself and go do each team. Because in most cases, even the littlest kids, the coaches seem to want to have their sticks checked. Okay. And generally you're just picking you're just looking for major pocket failures in those things. So we'll talk about that more later on. So hopefully all of that got done in that 10 minutes, and you should be down to essentially zero in time to start that 1 o'clock game. And that's where you want to get them out on the field immediately and start that game so that it's not wasting a lot of time. Any questions so far? Okay. Okay, so you're starting the game, and we said we're in a two-person system. So we're going to look at your areas of responsibility. So as we said, we have an official on both sides of the field. We'll go with the table side official here. Okay, so this person, when you do the first draw, or anytime you're doing a draw, that person will typically not be right there. They'll be over here where my cursor is, over towards that restraining line. This person is actually going to be doing the draw, so they're going to be over here. But bottom line, depending on how the ball comes out of the draw, both officials are going to move. So if you have a draw and the ball, depending how it happens, somebody gains possession and is heading to the left, this person here is going to become the lead, okay? And they will immediately move down here, okay? And that's pretty directly. Remember, the lead's responsibility is truly the critical scoring area. And we'll talk later, but the critical scoring area is basically this area all throughout this 12 and down behind towards these dots. This is where you're going to score a goal. So that's really where the important stuff is going on. And you'll hear me say that. The important stuff happens near the goals. So that's why we always want to make sure somebody's there. So the ball heads this way. This person is becoming, they're going to drop all the way down ahead of the ball. So they're going to move down, even if the ball's, kind of taking its time. Don't wait. Get all the way down here. This person as trail is going to move down following the ball. So if this person goes immediately and they have to run fast, it's kind of hard a lot of times to be able looking. If the ball's all the way over here, it's really hard to watch, or especially if it's right here and you're running, it's hard to look over your shoulder. So you have to be able to get all the way down here quickly and know that your partner is going to watch for you. So this person is going to be able to follow the ball and get just inside that restraining line, and depending on how comfortable you are, even a little bit farther in, and they're going to settle in about here. Okay, so you can see that the lead is going to have basically this shaded area. We'll see how that works, but and the trail would have this other side. But let's look how it progresses. Okay, so the lead here on the coach's side has the sideline, their entire sideline. They are also responsible for their end line. So what does that mean? This person here is responsible for blowing the whistle anytime the ball travels over the sideline over here or the end line. So just again, to drive it home, if the ball goes out the end line right here, this person here does not blow the whistle. That is not their call to make. If the ball goes out of bounds here, that is their call to make. So this is the lead. Okay, and all of this is the trail. Okay. Okay, and this is their call. So the trail here is going to have this side, and they're going to have the end line when they become lead. Okay, so we're going to look at the actual draw. So you're going to start the game, or anytime there's a goal, there's going to be a draw. So as I said, this person on the coach's side is going to be over here near the restraining line, and their responsibility here is not to watch what's going on here. Okay, this person is going to actually do the draw. So this person is responsible for counting the players on the field. Okay, so they're going to count. I mean, they usually, there's a goalie. They're going to count both teams here, and both teams here so that you know you have the right number of people on the field. This person here is going to have the ball. They're going to come stand right there into the center of the field, right where they're getting ready to do the draw. You'll have both centers, depending how they set up, whether right in the center. And this person here who's counting will, as soon as they're done, they will make some signal. Now, usually I try to make eye contact. I will look directly at my partner, and I'll either give them a thumbs up or nod my head or give them some other signal that I am done with my job. I have counted all my players. So this person then knows that they can immediately put their hands on those sticks and start the draw. Now, that's important because that's a signal, because there's no more substitutions. As soon as this person starts the draw, there are no more substitutions. As soon as they put the hands on the sticks and start putting that ball in that upper third between the two sticks, there can be no more substitutions. If there is, that is a delay a game foul on whoever put the substitution in. Okay? And from there, this person here, now typically you can see how it's set up. So they're going to be right in here. Now, depending on how the centers are set up, they could be on this side or they could be on this side. And it's going to depend, where is the opening? Because think about it. They want to get out of here and go this way. They have to be able to go this way. So depending on how these centers are set up, you need the open window. So you'll do the draw depending on which side, being able to bail out once you're getting ready, and bail out this way. Okay, so you'll have to see, and I think there might be a slide showing that, but that's something we'll do in the on-field, showing you that. But they will put their hand up once it's set, back out, ready, and blow their whistle. And then the responsibilities, as we said before, for depending on which direction the ball goes. All right. Okay, we already talked about the hands-on. All right, well, here's a good question, and I don't know if somebody wants to. What are the rules once the official has their hands on the stick? Anybody tell me? Nobody's willing to jump. All right, well, once you put your hands on the stick and you say ready, the only movement that those centers can have is moving their heads. Any movement other than their head is going to be an illegal draw. Okay, so hands on the stick, ready, no movement. So, and what you'll see a lot of times is, I mean, it's real obvious if they go to move their stick, they jump the gun with the actual draw. But it's also just as illegal to be able to, and what you'll see is you'll see them either buckle at the knees or drop their butt a little bit. They start shifting. Any body movement other than the head is illegal. Okay. Okay, so now we're going to look at positioning depending on where we are on the field, because we kind of talked about the initial movement and kind of general areas of responsibility, but there's also, depending on where you are on the field, there's also important things that you want to take into account, because again, remember, you are a team and you almost want to consider yourselves, one person connected by a rubber band. Because that's how you do the best job of being able to see the field. So let's take a look at the different areas of the field and see where we belong. Okay, critical scoring area. Okay, so we know the critical scoring area. Now, in this case, the lead. Where is the lead going to be? Okay, so the lead has basically this responsibility. So remember, lead has their critical scoring area is really theirs. So that's one of the things you're going to want to talk to your partner about. The lead is responsible for calling fouls basically anywhere this pink is. And I would even say even the rest of it here that's not pink. I mean, they are really responsible for everything that goes on in their critical scoring area. The trail kind of has some different jobs. And we have another slide coming up that tells you. And this was one of the things that I've told people, they've been umpiring for a couple of years, and you can see that they're kind of struggling moving up to the higher level games and the faster games. And I started asking them, what's your job here? And a lot of times they can't tell me. There are certain things you are responsible for as lead and trail, and they're very specific. And what the mistake most people tend to make is that they try to do everything. They try to pay attention to everything. Hey, it's not your job. You pay attention to your job only, and the game gets a heck of a lot easier. And that's what we're going to get to now. Okay, so you can see lead in the pink, trail more or less kind of in the overlaps a little bit in the blue. So let's look at what the lead does. Now, I said the lead is responsible for everything that goes on in the critical scoring area. So any foul, any on-ball foul, so any fouls on the ball carrier is the lead. Shooting space on your side of the arc. So your half of the arc is going to be your shooting space. Goal circle, end line and sideline, your end line and sideline, and then off-ball fouls on your side of the arc. Now, this is the one. I mean, the trail. So what's if the lead has everything, quotation marks, what does the trail do? Well, the trail is really for off-ball fouls. Now, I would tell you, as you move up in your umpiring and potentially move up to wanting to do high school or even college games, one of the things you go to, training, they watch, if you're wearing a baseball cap, they watch that baseball cap, with the big bill in the front, and they watch where it's pointing. And you'll come off the field and they will start just raking you over the coals for watching the ball. If you're trail, you are not watching the ball. Okay. Peripheral vision, yeah, know where the ball is, but you are not watching the ball. That's the lead's job. You are watching for everything else that's going on that field other than the ball. Okay, shooting space on your side. So the right, if we were looking with coming at you, the left side, that blue area was where shooting space, and we have more pictures later. Restraining line violation. So restraining line, it doesn't happen a lot, but it will happen where that ball will bounce out, and it will head towards that restraining line, and you'll inevitably get an offsides, somebody jumping over the line or getting pushed over the line. And it's that trail that needs to be there to be able to determine what exactly happened, who was offsides, and then be able to deal with that. And then here's the big one. And I will tell you, to this day, and I've been at this for, 15, 17 years, I am still working on this. This is one of the hardest things to do as an official, especially a trail official. And this is dangerous propelling and dangerous follow through. The trail, that is your job. I mean, think about it. The lead is there trying to determine, was a goal scored? And typically your eye goes right, on the ball, the person with the ball, the goalie, into the net. And then your eye is in that net. And so much happens between the release of that shot and it going into the net that somebody needs to be paying attention. And that is the trail's job to make sure that, number one, was that definitely not a dangerous propel, and probably the big one is, was there a dangerous follow through? And it's amazing how often it happens, and it is one of the hardest things to call, just because it's really hard. No matter where you're standing, even as trail, it's hard to keep your eye on the players and not on that ball. Okay, so let's talk about, we talked about the lead being responsible for everything happening in that critical scoring area. So how and when where are they supposed to be able to do that? And there's really two ways that people talk about it. So I don't know that you've heard of either of them, but I'll mention both just so if somebody mentions. There's one approach that they call tangent, and this is geometry. Basically being on a tangent is being on a 90-degree angle. Okay, that's what these arrows here are. So you're always looking for that 90-degree look. And what they're trying to get you to do is they want you to be able to see. So let's assume you are the official. If you're right here, and for you to be on tangent, they're talking about the ball being right here. Okay, so you're on a 90-degree angle to where that ball currently is. And what they want by you being on a tangent is they want you to be able to see as that ball carrier comes in, they want you to be able to see from this direction a lot of things. They want to be seeing fouls that may be coming from a direction. They want to be able to see whether there was a goal circle violation. Well, there's anything that would happen being on a tangent is what they're trying to accomplish. So what happens here is as that ball moves, this tangent changes. So you can see if the ball is over here, that tangent now changed to here. That's your right angle again here. The ball's over here, again, it changed. So this person is going to be moving around this area as that tangent is moving. As that ball moves, so if the ball is over here, I'm going to be all the way up here so that I have a right angle to that ball. So that's being on a tangent. And I know I have a couple more slides we'll show you in a second. The other one is quadrants. This is just breaking up the critical scoring area into 4 quadrants. This is number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4. Okay, and we'll move on and show you here. So this is a little bit more on tangent. So you can see where the ball is, and you can see that that current official is on tangent, okay? Okay, so let's say the ball now is down here below the goal line extended. So this one can get tricky. Now, number 1 here, anytime the ball is below the goal line extended, anytime you are below the goal line extended. So you are always going to be down here when that ball is below the goal line. But the tricky part is, what does the person do with the ball? They can take the ball, and obviously they can pass it anywhere. But a lot of times you get them, they're either going to roll this way or they're going to roll this way. So that's what I think they're going to try to show us here. Okay, so you can see when the ball rolled up here to get back on tangent, you rolled out here and came up high so that you're still on tangent. Okay, ball comes over here. You're going to drop back down, okay, to be able to get onto that tangent again. So you're always moving to try to get on that 90-degree angle to the ball. Now, here's the other example. Sometimes they come right at you, and this can be exciting because they're coming right at you. Well, number 1, you have to get out of the way, but you also have to remain in the best position to be able to see. So you'll see what they do here. Okay, so you actually, in this case, moved out of the way, actually dropped a little deeper so that you'd still be on tangent with that ball. Okay, and I will tell you, this is one of the big things as you progress is being proper positioning in the critical scoring area. I can't tell you how many people that I go to a game and have observed, especially new officials, and it doesn't. I tell you, it doesn't matter where the ball is; they're standing right out here, right here. They standing there, not even moving, and the ball's all over in here, and they're standing right there. Again, that's on us. Somebody needs to tell them that they need to move, because, I mean, we're getting paid to make sure, number 1, that it's fair and safe, and everything that's going to happen is going to happen in the critical scoring area. The ball could shoot out here and go out of bounds at the end line. And again, I've seen people just standing here, and there's just no way you can judge a contested ball standing way out over here. So just be aware, it's very definite rules as to where your positioning is supposed to be. Okay, now here's the quadrant. I don't know, maybe some people consider this easier. And I don't know where our animation's going to be, but I will tell you that if, as an official, if the ball is in number 2, you are in 1. Anytime the ball is in number 2 here, you will be in number 1. If the ball moves over to 3, you will be in 2. Okay. If the ball is in 4, you're moving back down to 1. Okay, I think we have some animation showing you. Okay, so here, ball is in 4, official is in 1. Ball is in 3, official's in 2. Ball is in 2, official is in 1. Okay, and it's all a matter of trying to be in position, whether you're doing quadrants or just, you're doing tangents, to be in the best position to see everything that's going on. Let me see, there was something I was going to bring up here. Well, it eludes me at this point. Okay, transition. Now, we talked about in the critical scoring area. Now, you all know that the ball changes direction a lot, and in youth, it changes direction a real lot. So what you're going to do is you're always going to be going between, you're going to be lead, and then you're going to become trail. You're going to be trail, and you will become lead. So what are you supposed to do? Now, okay, as a trail to a lead, you're going to stay ahead and outside the ball. And I have pictures. We'll show more about this in a second. You want to keep your players hopefully in your field of vision, which a lot of times makes it a heck of a lot easier, especially in the midfield, to go wide. Get out as wide as you can, because it allows you to really kind of rotate your shoulders and your head and be able to watch the majority of the field behind you as you're going up the field. And maintain the view of the action in the CSA. And I will continue to say anything bad that's going to happen is going to happen in the CSA, critical scoring area. So that's where you need to be. I will always tell people, when the ball is headed to your critical scoring area, you need to get there first. You need to be there, because that's the majority of your job. Okay, lead to trail. Okay, think about what, so your partner is running up the field as the ball goes up. Sometimes they're running, in an all-out sprint, so they can't do a very good job. So number one, you're helping them. You're looking up the field and making sure nothing's happening that they can't see as they're running up the field. So help your partner as they're trying to get down to the critical scoring area. You're going to be counting ahead of you, because remember, the trail, I don't think we said this, the trail is actually responsible for offsides. So you're always counting the players. So as that ball is moving up the field to the opposite end, you're keeping track. And when you get close, you're going to be counting those players in front of you. And you're going to be looking for 7 pairs. Okay, so that's what you're legally, 7 pairs plus the goalie. Usually I ignore the goalie. I know one's there, so I'm looking for 7. Typically, I will count my attack first. Okay, so I'll make sure I have 7 attack, and then I count my 7 defense. Again, so you're going to be counting ahead of you. A lot of people, and to be honest, I did this early on in my career, say, well, it's easier to count 4 behind me than it is to count 7 ahead. Well, that doesn't work, because I tell you, they could be playing short. They could be, somebody could be way over on the sidelines talking to a coach. There's all sorts of things that can happen, that if you're only looking back and you're seeing 3, you'd think they're offsides when they're not. So everybody, they will train you all the way through high school to college. You are responsible for counting ahead, because that's the only place offsides can occur, is ahead of the restraining line, not behind it. They encourage you to stay up with the play. Yeah, I rarely have any issues with young officials. You're young, you're energetic, you're in good shape. You can run. So running to get you to that restraining line is not a big deal. I will tell you, with some of the adults that we work with, it's a bigger deal getting them up to the restraining line and past it. But again, you guys won't have that issue. Just get all the way up the field, get to that restraining line as the trail, check your offsides. And then here's another good one. As that new trail, anticipate where the play is going. And why? Again, as players, you have a great advantage over people like me that never played the game. You have a pretty good idea what teams are trying to do and what's going to happen next. I mean, I've gotten better at it. The big thing here is you are now the trail. The thing that's going to happen is that ball is going to pop out and it's going to shoot all the way down to the other end of the field. You need to be ready to get down there and beat it down there. So standing there and watching and not paying attention to where the ball is going gets you trapped. And the next thing you know, the ball's 20 yards ahead of you and you're behind the play. Something bad happens and you weren't in a good position to see it. And that's where you have coaches and players and parents who may have a good reason to think that you didn't get a call right. So anticipate where the play is going, and as that trail, be ready to bail out and head down to become the lead at the other end. And don't worry about it. Remember what I said. If you bail out as trail and start heading back down to the other end of that field running, your partner is going to help watch behind you. That's their job, is to help you get to where you need to be. Okay, so we got some pictures here showing exactly how this is going to work. Let's see. Okay, the ball's here. So we got the lead now, calling it. We got the trail. Now, as I told you, I would rather have this person over here. And think about it. Nothing is going to happen over here. I mean, this just is not where bad stuff happens. And plus, this isn't giving you a good view of the things that you're responsible for. You're going to want to be able to move back and forth, but in a settled position with the ball here, I'd be over here, because you want to be able to see directly in, because you would have shootings if that ball came over here, and next thing you know, you might have shooting space. You're going to be watching, dangerous follow through. You're not looking for fouls and things, so you're going to want to be over here more. Okay, so what's going to happen? Okay, ball moves up the field. Both players are moving. Now, I will tell you, in this animation, this trail probably came up a little soon. It depends. Now, the ball was coming up, so you're good. But the trail is usually going to hang back, because how many times do you see the goalkeeper? Number one, you have to count the goalkeeper. They have 10 seconds to get the ball out of the circle. So you're going to be counting that. So you're going to be somewhere in here watching that goalie to make sure that they're clearing the ball in that 10 seconds. You're also watching the people that are defending them, because remember, that defender cannot be breaking that cylinder. Their stick can't be into the goal circle. Their body can't be in the goal circle. And a lot of times you'll see them right on this line with their stick leaning out over into that goal circle. Well, that's a goal circle violation. So you're going to want to watch. So until that goalie actually gets that ball out, you're going to want to be here. The other times you see more and more now is you're seeing goalies advance the ball themselves. They're going to pull the ball out and carry it out. And a lot of times, I don't know what it is, but with a goalie with the ball, it seems like people think they can hack a goalie because they have equipment on. And that's just not the case. So you've got to really be here when that goalie they're walking the ball up. I would typically walk right with them and really protect them. From attackers or from, defenders who are being too aggressive with them. I mean, they have every right to play defense, but just because a goalie has, a helmet and chest protector and pads on doesn't make any change in the stick contact, whether it be slash, checks to the head, all the same rules apply. So again, walk the ball out, and then when it moves, as we talked about, you'll move up the field. Now, this ball is going to continue up. Now, this person is going to move. Okay, that's what I was telling you, that lead official needs to get up there before the ball. And then your trail comes in, okay, and they're going to take up their position there. Any questions so far?
So if the goalie doesn't come out of the goal circle and the 10 seconds are up, what are we supposed to call? Is it just a turnover, or where should we position the player?
Okay. Goalie, it makes 10 seconds. That is a goal circle violation. Okay, for a goal circle violation, and given that it's happening here, it's going to be a turnover. So what you're going to do is, in that case, goal circle violations on the defense go to the dot. Now, with a goalkeeper, given that they made the goal circle violation while they were in the goal circle, they get to stay there, and you won't have anybody behind. Any player from the new attack team will be able to take this position, and you will whistle start them. Okay, anytime you're going to be on the dot, typically you're going to whistle start. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. Feel free, anybody, ask questions. That's the best way to learn. And like I said, we may cover it later, but I'm happy to go into detail, because that's the kind of stuff you're going to be faced with. Okay, what do I do now? Okay, and that would be an easy one. Well, as long as we're talking about that, let's say goalie has the ball here, and an attacker, as I was telling you, breaks the plane with their stick. What do we got? Okay, that too is a goal circle, but in this case, it's on the defense. Now, here's the age-old question: what do I do now? Okay, in that case, goalie gets to keep the ball. The actual person who did the goal circle violation must go 4 behind. So you take them, they go 4 behind, and you whistle start them. Okay? Okay, restarts. This is one that, unfortunately makes sometimes officials look like the three stooges out there, actually two stooges, and this is where you need to communicate. You need to understand what the rules are, as to how you actually manage restarts. I mean, think about it. Think how many whistles you get in a girls lacrosse game. It's never ending. So you have to know, okay, who blows the whistle? And I can't tell you how many times there's, two people blow it at the same time, or one blows it, then the other blows it. It's just incredibly confusing. And it's confusing because people don't know what the management rules are. All right, so officials manage restarts in their third of the field. So if you take the field and break it up into 3, so you got the 2 critical scoring areas on each end, and then the midfield. Okay, so the official in that third of the field will typically restart the play. Now, here's one. Each official always manages restarts on their sideline and their end line. Now, remember we said that you own the sideline, if this was the field, sideline and your end line. So official always manages. Now, notice that does not say official always blows the whistle on restarts on their sideline and end line boundary. It says manages. All that means is that official, let's say I'm on the table side, on any of those restarts on this sideline or this end line are going to be mine. But that doesn't mean I have to do it. Now, let me give you an example. Ball is way down here. Okay, I'm trail, and ball is down here, and it's going to be on a new attack going this way, going to the left. Think about it. If I'm the trail here, I need to get down. I need to get down to the other end of the field. If I stand here and restart that, they are going to catch up to me almost immediately and beat me down the field. Or I'm going to have to run like a maniac, which is not what you want to do. So even though that is my sideline, I am going to look at my partner across the field here, and I am going to nod to them, basically telling them, I want you to restart this. And as soon as I've made eye contact and they know that I want them to blow the whistle, I can turn my back, I can run, and they will manage that restart. Even though that was my sideline, I am telling them, I want you to blow the whistle so I can get down there. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, that's important because that's a big one. Because again, you do not want, I see so many people standing here with a sideline restart going towards them and just standing there. And it ball blows by them and we all look horrible. Just look to your partner, acknowledge point to them, say your whistle or just whatever they know, and then get your butt down there and let them restart it. I'll use the other example. Let's say we're down here and I'm lead, I'm here and I just had an out of bounds ball, and or over the end line. It's way over here in the corner, but it was end line, so it was my whistle. I blew the whistle to stop it because it was my end line, but I'm way over here, and I can't see well. I got a bunch of players in here. I can just look over to my partner, who's probably right over here, and say your whistle, and they could start it. So again, just recognize you are responsible for your end line and your sideline, but you're going to manage those restarts. Know who's going to blow the whistle. Okay. All right. The one big thing, and this is something you definitely want to keep in mind, lead official always whistles all restarts in the critical scoring area. Always. There is no managing. That is always. Anybody have any idea why? Think about your own games. It's probably happened to you. All right. Well, I'll tell you that there's no place worse if you're setting up an 8-meter or a 12-meter free position when all of a sudden somebody doesn't realize you're the lead, it's your whistle, and they blow a whistle. I mean, it's not legal. I mean, and they'll blow a whistle, you'll blow a whistle, and all of a sudden you have this 8-meter free position or 12-meter blow up on you. And wait a minute, oh, wait. And now everybody say, well, wait a minute, I just scored a goal. That wasn't fair. It causes all sorts of problems by not knowing whose whistle. So never, never, never blow a whistle unless you are the lead in the critical scoring area. All right, we already talked about this. Step up as trail to manage restarts when your partner is transitioning to lead. So if your partner's heading up the field, step up. And you can even, this is another thing they'll teach you, is as trail, I mean, even though this is your sideline, if that ball's way over here, there's a lot of times where I am actually running almost in the middle of the field. And I could be better doing this if I had a picture of the field up there. But don't be afraid to move in, especially when the ball's way over here and you're going to restart. Move up a little bit so that you can be closer. And then once that restart happens, you can drift back out into your better running position. All right, well, I probably could have moved to this earlier. Might have made more sense. Okay, so we talked each official restarts play in their CSA. Lead down here has basically all of this unless it's coming at them, and then they can communicate with their partner to have them do the restart so that they can get down the field. Again, I can't stress enough, you are a team, and the better you work as a team, the easier the game is going to be for you and the players. Okay, let's start talking about making the call. And again, you're going to want to get into the rule book. So I'd encourage you, hopefully prior to our next session, you'll get your hands on a rule book, read it cover to cover, because that's where the rules are. I mean, that's the out and out plain old rules, which you need to know. Okay, so there are types of fouls. There are major fouls. There are minor fouls. Someday I hope they'll get rid of them, but they still have major and minor in youth lacrosse. There's goal circle fouls. There are misconduct and suspension, and then there are team fouls. So we're going to talk about each of them now. Okay, two big ones, and I'm not quite sure why they put these first, because honestly, these are some of the most confusing ones. But shooting space in 3 seconds. These are two fouls that happen within the critical scoring area. And, you will see them a lot. And there are two things that make the game very unfair if they're not being called or not being called correctly. So let's first do a shooting space. Hey, shooting space is basically taking away what we call free position to the free space to the goal. This is the shooter or the ball. They basically have the right to all of this basically this triangle. And that triangle, and a lot of people are not aware, that triangle goes from wherever the ball is to the far side, each far side of the goal. So you can see in this case, that shooter is here, that's the pie. Basically, no one, unless they are actively guarding someone, can be in this space. Okay, unless they have to be within a stick length of this shooter. If they are not within a stick length, they cannot be in this space unless they're actively guarding somebody. So let's just say, we have another attacker down here and a defender. If they're, right in there, they're fine. There is no shooting space call because that shooter cannot shoot safely when you have those two players there. Let's say you have those two players there and now the attacker leaves, but the defender stays there. This person wants to shoot. Now you have shooting space. Now you can see how shooting space changes as the position of the ball changes, and it certainly changes the shape of this triangle. If the ball's way up here, it's still to the far ends, but there's hardly any space to be in. You move way out, out to the top of the 12, and it will get bigger. Now, another one, and remember, this is shooting space to goal. They have to have a legitimate chance to shoot. So I guess we can talk a little bit about that. What does a legitimate chance to shoot mean? That player with the ball has to be able to shoot. So that means not only do they have to be able to, so if they got two people closely guarding them, they can't shoot. So you're not going to call shooting space because they don't have the ability to shoot. Okay, now if I can have two people on me and I can make a good dodge and move to my right, now all of a sudden I've freed my hands and I can shoot. Different story. But they got to have their hands and stick in a position to be able to shoot. They also got to be wanting to shoot. Okay, if somebody is out here and they're clearly looking over here to make a pass, that's not shooting space. Okay, they have to be wanting, attempting to shoot. So a lot of times what you'll see is coaches will train people to actually pump. They'll pump that stick saying, I want to shoot. And that makes it pretty clear to the official that, okay, I had the ability and the desire. And you'll see that a lot. The players are really taught and need to be taught that they need to be looking, because if somebody's in shooting space, they should not be shooting. So I would encourage you, anytime you call shooting space on someone, they need to be aware, you can't be there, and hopefully the foul graduates. But you also, if you have a player who shoots, they are very likely, and we'll talk about this in a bit, they could be getting, that's where dangerous propel comes in. If they go ahead and shoot it, and put that person who may be in shooting space at risk, they're the ones who are going to get the card. Okay, here's a good one down here. You can see that this person has the ball. You can see the pie, but this defender is below the goal line extended. Given that that person is not in shooting to free space to goal, I mean, they can't shoot. I mean, they cannot, a ball shot and hitting them would not have any chance of going in the goal. So they are not going to be called for shooting space below the goal line extended. You must be above it to be able to have that call made. Okay, this is pretty complicated stuff. I'd encourage you, look at the section, read it in your rule book, but we'll definitely spend time on that. That'll be one thing we spend a lot of time on field. Now, as long as, I'm sure you're all thinking, well, what do you do if you get shooting space? Well, this is going to be a free position. So this person, somebody's in here, you're going to blow your whistle. You're going to put the person to the closest hash, 8-meter hash, to where the ball was. So in this case, it'll probably be center hash. The person that was in here is going to be put 4 behind. You're going to clear the critical score, or clear the penalty zone, and restart with a whistle. Okay, if it was this person and somebody was in here, that setup could very well be on the hanging hash, the 8-meter hash that stands by itself down here. The offender go 4 behind. Again, you're clearing the penalty area, and you'd restart with a whistle. Not that it's critical, but let's say we did have somebody. Let's say this person here is coming in, somebody is in shooting space, and you're getting ready to call it. They shoot and they hit this person. Anybody have any idea what happens? Okay, this is a big penalty. Okay, what happens is the fact that this person hit this person who was defending, granted, they were in shooting space, so they fouled, but the fact that they got hit, a dangerous propel is an automatic card. So this person who shot, who hit this person, is going to get a yellow card. The yellow card oversees the shooting space. So basically, this person gets a yellow card. They leave the field for 2 minutes. This person who got hit is actually going to get the ball on the 8-meter going out. Okay, so it's a big penalty for shooting when you shouldn't be. And to be honest, I mean, hitting them is a pretty clear call. If they shoot and they don't hit them, but it goes whizzing by their head and you see them ducking, I mean, that can be a dangerous propel as well. They don't technically have to be hit, although they usually are. Okay, 3 seconds. Okay, 3 seconds. Now, this one in youth sometimes can be hard, especially with the little kids, because a lot of times you don't even have an arc and a fan. But basically, 3 seconds, a defender cannot be in the 8-meter arc for longer than 3 seconds unless they're actively marking a player. Okay, so if someone, and I don't know if I have a slide, but let's say you have somebody and the ball's out here, they're passing it around, and somebody is inside the 8 standing here. They are taking away the attack's ability to run a play because they're taking up space they're not entitled to. So if you're seeing somebody, they are not actively marking someone while the attack has possession. Now I'll tell you, you would start your count. So they have the ball is here, somebody's standing here, they're not looking to shoot, they're just moving, and you're counting 1, 1,000, 2, 2,000, 3, 3,000. If you reach that 3,000, you're going to blow, well, one of two things. Typically, you're going to blow your whistle, and that's going to be a 3-second violation. Okay, in that case, given that they were here, again, you're going to give that person with the ball closest to the ball on that hash mark. The 3 seconds person will be moved 4 behind, and it'll be a whistle start. Now, when does 3 seconds not apply? If they are marking someone within a stick length, so basically within their stick, and in high school it remains a stick, so it's pretty close. They've just changed it in college to be an arm and a stick, but in high school and youth it is a stick length. So they must be marking someone. The attack must have possession of the ball. So if you're actively counting 1, 2, and they drop the ball, you got to start counting again because they do not have possession. Okay, so they have to actively have the ball in their possession to be in 3 seconds. If they're marking somebody and and that person they're defending leaves, that's where you would start counting. If they pick up somebody else, okay, the count has to restart, or actually it ends because they're doing that. So we'll do more of that when we get to the on-field where we can actually set it up and you can see it better. But again, those are 2 things that happen quite a bit. And interestingly enough, these are things oftentimes that I will say youth, but even in high school, often are not called nearly enough. And to be honest, they're dangerous too. Okay, minor fouls. Now, these are things that really don't have a lot to do with safety, uh, but they're unfair. So people can't, you got to control them, uh, but they're not hugely, not things having to do with safety. Okay, we got covering. You've seen that where somebody denies somebody access to the ball by, putting the stick over it. You'll see kids, especially young kids, trying to rake the ball up into their stick. Now, is covering or raking the ball illegal? No, unless somebody is actively trying to get it. But if there's somebody there trying to get the ball and you put your stick over it or you rake the ball, that is a covering foul as long as someone else is there. If they're all alone out there or somebody's not anywhere near them, 5 yards away, I'm not calling covering. Empty stick. You must there must be a ball in the stick for a player to actively check that stick, and you will see it. They'll reach out, ball is gone. They'll check the stick or hold the stick. Anytime that they hit an empty stick in attempt to keep the player from being able to play the ball, that's going to be an empty stick. You'll see it sometimes on draws where the ball goes way up in the air and one player won't even attempt to get the ball. They'll just whack the other one's stick out of the way. That is an empty stick check. Two players actively running towards the ball to try to pick it up. One will just be getting ready to pick it up and somebody will whack the top of their stick so that they can't get it. That is an empty stick. Warding, you've potentially seen it. Basically you're taking one arm and extending that arm, pushing someone away. Okay, you cannot create space using that warding action or pushing action where you're pushing somebody away. You can't play from out of bounds. Okay, you can't pass the ball in from out of bounds. You must run it in. And then anytime a handball, you can't touch the ball with your hand. I mean, you see it, they can't help themselves sometimes. Ball coming at them, and for whatever reason they catch it. Well, that's illegal. Procedural, illegal substitution. There are times where there's already a full complement of players on the field, and somebody will come running on. That would be an illegal substitution. Delay a game is really anything that is slowing down the game. And this is a tool in your tool belt that can really be helpful if you use it. If anything, if players are not following your directions, telling somebody, four behind, you must be four behind, and they're not doing it, that can be delay a game. Okay, and that would be well, it could be a number of ways of dealing with it, but that could be a delay a game. If people aren't coming out after halftime or after a quarter, that could be delay a game. So there's all sorts of anything that's going to slow the game down. On a draw where they're not, they're down there celebrating and after a goal, and you're trying to get them back to restart the game. Now, in your case, with youth, it's typically a running clock, so it's not that big a deal. But it is still unfair to the team that might be losing that they're eating up clock by not getting back. So that could be delay a game. Third request to check a stick. I've never had a stick check in high school, I don't think. I've certainly never had one in youth, so I'm not even going to worry about it. But read it in the book. You can talk. There are stick checks, but I don't think you're ever going to see it. Illegal reentry is again a foul. That's if you gave somebody a penalty and they came in before they were eligible to come in. This is a tough one because unless you have that third official or a table official to notice, a lot of times you're not going to know that they came in until well after the fact. So sometimes that's a hard one, but it is obviously illegal to come in before your penalty is over. Okay, illegal equipment. This is kind of an interesting one. I mean, there are certain equipment that are required, and failure to have them is a foul. So you must play with a cross. Okay, I don't know if you've ever been in a game, but there are times where somebody drops their stick and they kind of shift and they try to pivot and block somebody away from the ball. You can't do that. You cannot play unless you have a stick in your hand. Okay. Uh, an illegal stick, if someone were to find that the pocket of that stick is too deep, or that the ball doesn't come out of that pocket, that would be an illegal cross, and that would be a foul. Okay, you must have a mouth guard. Now, this is one of my bugaboos. I sometimes it seems to me that it's kind of a gotcha penalty. I mean, yes, they're supposed to have a mouth guard. You have certified that they have a mouth guard. So if they don't have one, potentially it's a minor foul. Now, to be honest, I'll tell you what I do is if I see a player without a mouth guard, I will say, number 23, you don't have a mouth guard, go to the bench and get one. And if they immediately run off the field and go get a mouth guard, I have no issues with that whatsoever. If they don't leave the field or argue with me, and now I got a problem, and I'm going to call it a foul as soon as I have the ability, and I'll wait till they have the ball, and then I'll call a minor foul and take it away from them. You do see players run around with fish hooks where they chew on the mouth guard and it's hanging out of their mouth. I'll be honest with you, I don't spend a lot of time worrying about it, but you'll have coaches yelling at you and other players say, "Oh, she's not wearing her mouth guard." Well, I will say, put your mouth guard in. And I may do that a couple of times. And if they continue to ignore you, then maybe you call the minor foul. But, they got a mouth guard. Is it your job to make sure they're absolutely positively wearing it properly all the time? I have more important things to look for. But if I do see it and I do tell them, it can become an issue. Okay, they must have goggles. Obviously, if they don't have their goggles on, you're going to send them off the field. If their goggles get knocked off, that's basically you're going to blow the whistle and you're going to get them to put their goggles back on. But that's kind of a management thing on your part to make sure everybody has their goggles and that they're on. And that's a heck of a lot easier to notice than a mouth guard. So uh, uniforms can be a minor foul. I don't expect you to be a uniform expert, and especially at the youth levels, half these teams don't even have uniforms. They're wearing pennies. They're wearing different color pennies. Uh, I, you know, I'm not going to make a huge issue out of a uniform. The only thing I will make an issue of, and I'll alert you to this, it makes it incredibly hard to umpire a game if you can't tell which team is which. And there are times where teams are going to show up and they're going to have two shades of blue. And I don't know about you, but my color vision isn't that good that in a split second I can tell who's who when they both are blue. Or one team has red tops and white bottoms, the other one white bottoms, red tops. It's almost impossible. So a lot of this uniform rule is for your benefit. Make sure you can tell uh, who's who. It's almost impossible trying to call off sides or something else when you can't differentiate between players. So be aware. If you have to tell a coach, you need to get some pennies for these because I can't tell who's who because the uniforms are too close together. So be aware. And then there is still the jewelry rule out there. And you're going to hear everything under the sun. Jewelry is illegal. And until they change the rule, jewelry remains illegal. They can't have earrings, they can't have necklaces, they can't have bracelets, all this stuff. Now they have changed some of the rules for medical alerts. You can have beads in your hair and some of this other stuff, but jewelry, jewelry meant as a fashion statement, is illegal. That includes, piercings and the like. And I don't know where it came in, but somewhere along the line, people thought that, putting tape over a piece of jewelry worked. Now, it works when you have a medical alert bracelet on, because that's legal, but you're still supposed to be taping them down. But I can't tell you how many times I've seen new earrings and they say, well, I can't take them out because the holes are going to fill up or whatever that excuse is. It's not legal. I've seen nose piercings. They try to throw tape over it. uh, you know, again, it puts us in a difficult situation to have to monitor it. But if you see it, typically I will, again, they already certified that they are legal. So it is a foul. Typically, if I see jewelry, I will send them off the field, tell them to take it off. Now, let me be clear here. This sport and others, I have been told that is not our job to be looking under tape. So if somebody tells you that, here in the middle of their nose, they have a big chunk of tape and they say, oh, I got a zit or whatever. It is not our job to make them take that tape off. You're going to take their word for it. Now, I will tell you that in situations like that, where I know they're lying to me, I have gone to a coach and said, Coach, I don't believe her for a second, but I'm not asking her to take it off. You certified it. If something happens, this is on you, and let them deal with it. But again, jewelry is a minor foul. Can you tell I love the jewelry rule? Okay, major fouls. These are things that have to do with safety. I mean, and this is really where our job becomes most important. And I want you all, as youth officials, to really focus on safety, because these are the things that truly will and can destroy the sport if they're not really followed strictly. People get hurt, we get concussions. People start thinking girls need to wear helmets and shoulder pads, which is not the direction anybody that I know wants to go. So, especially at the youth, you need to get comfortable early on in watching, and especially in the youth, you have it pretty clearly laid out. They cannot make stick contact with the body. It's clear. And that's at any level. So, I mean, it makes it a little bit easier than some of the higher levels, but these are the things that you're going to have to be able to deal with. Okay, so when you have a penalty, what are we going to do? First thing is you're going to whistle it. And this is something that you're going to laugh at me, but I will tell you this is one of the things we will definitely work on at the field. You are going to whistle fouls, and you need to practice a whistle. So you're going to go out. We'll get to stuff in a bit about what kind of whistles and the like, but you need to learn how to blow a whistle. And again, you're going to laugh thinking, well, everybody knows how to blow a whistle. Well, 90% of people do not. The biggest mistake people make is we get this little tweet that nobody can hear, and that's worse than not even blowing a whistle. You need to learn to really blast that whistle, because you need to say, when you blow your whistle, you are telling people, pay attention to me, stop and pay attention to me. And if they don't hear it, they don't respect it, they're not going to do it. And well, I'll tell you, all hell breaks loose when you have plays continuing because they don't hear the whistle. So work on blowing your whistle. Directions and signals. You're going to learn that there are signals. That's going to be in the back of your rule book. So I would encourage you to go and start learning the signals, especially the biggest ones. But the most important signal that everybody in lacrosse wants and really cares about is direction. Anytime you blow your whistle on the field for a foul, the first thing you give them is direction, because that's what everybody wants to know. The coaches, the parents, even the players. What direction are we going? Who did it? So whistle and put your arm up, pointing up nice and high, up in the direction of which way the ball is now going. And you'd be amazed at how quickly people will grab that ball and start, especially with self starts, they'll start going quickly. So whistle, direction, and the foul signal. Okay, this is where you have a chance to tell everybody, okay, this is what happened. I just told you what way we're going, but this is what happened. Give yourself a break. It's going to take you a couple of years to really get comfortable with the signals. I know high school officials that still don't get their foul signals in. It's nice to start working on it. It helps your partner. It helps everybody, but we don't expect you to necessarily get it right off the bat. One of the things that I did when I started, and I encourage people, was be vocal. If you don't know the signal, just tell them. Whistle, signal, slash, or whistle, signal, cover. Just tell them what it was. You know what it is because you just blew your whistle. if you don't know the signal, just be vocal. Just say, just tell them what it was until you start learning the signals. Okay, so now you've done whistle, direction, you've given them the foul. Now you have to manage the restart. And somebody made up the acronym BOO, ball, offender, and others. So the first thing you're going to do is set up the ball. When a foul occurs, the ball is supposed to be basically within 4 meters of where that foul took place. So you need to get, if it's not there already, you need to get that ball back to where that foul occurred, because it's technically unfair for them to be starting elsewhere. So get the ball where it needs to be, get your offender, and in this case, if it's a major foul is 4 behind, so they are 4 meters behind the ball. Or if it's a minor foul, they are 4 meters away in the direction they were when the foul took place. Don't worry about it. We'll set it up when we do on field. But so it's ball, offender, and then worry about everybody else. Everybody after a foul other than the offender needs to be 4 meters away. So that ball carrier is entitled to that 4 meters from everybody on the field. Okay, you're going to make sure you have everything right. You're going to definitely, remember I talked about, depending on the direction, if you're the new lead, you're going to take off and let your trail whistle it, but you're going to have everything all set up. Okay, these are the fun ones. These are the truly dangerous or safety related fouls that are absolutely unacceptable and are going to mandate they must get a yellow card. Okay, so check to the head. Now you all know, and you're going to get in the rule book, that no one is able to put their stick within, it's like having a bubble around the head of 12 inches in the youth level. Okay, so they can't have their stick within a foot of their head in any direction. Now, that's a different foul. I mean, but that's something you probably should be calling, and that is in the sphere. I mean, basically, there's, in the sphere, which is a major foul. That's not a card, but if they get in that sphere and they actually hit someone in the head, that becomes a check to the head, and that becomes a 2-minute yellow card. Okay? A slash. Slash is basically a dangerous swing of the stick, generally making contact with the body. However, I will tell you it doesn't need to. But anytime someone swings their stick and hits somebody, that's going to be a slash. So that will be a yellow card. Now, I will tell you another slash you'll see is somebody chasing somebody down the field, and they're, I don't know, a step, 2 steps behind, and they make this big one-handed swing, last ditch, no hope, probably no hopes of even making contact, but that big swing from behind, that's unacceptable. That's slash. And that is preemptive officiating. You can see it coming. Those you can see coming a mile away. I sit there running behind them, seeing it happening, and I'll be to myself, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. But inevitably they do. Whistle them and give them the slash. It's dangerous. And even though they didn't hit anybody that time, I guarantee the next time they will. And it'll be a concussion, and you'll be kicking yourself all the way home for not catching it sooner. So don't let them get away with big, dangerous swings. They don't need to necessarily make contact to be a slash. Okay, dangerous propelling. Usually this is around the goal circle, somebody shooting and somebody is in the way. So if there's somebody standing there, even if they're in shooting space and you shoot, close dangerously at them, that would be dangerous propel. If there's 2 players, another attacker and a defender in there, and the player shoots and hits one of them, that would be dangerous propelling. If I'm basically anywhere in the field and I, just randomly or without regard to the positioning of another player, basically throw that ball and it hits them, that would be dangerous propelling. Now, again, you have to use judgment elsewhere in the field because it's not always so clear, but you'll usually be able to tell that was unacceptable. Dangerous follow through. And this can happen again, mostly going to happen in the critical scoring area on a shot where somebody takes a shot and their follow through brings them down onto the head or shoulders of another player. That is dangerous follow through. That is illegal. Even if they scored, that goal would not count. It can also happen anywhere else on the field. If you're making a pass and your follow through comes down on the shoulders, body, head of another player, that can be dangerous follow through anywhere it happens on the field. Uh, they must be able to control their follow through. And then dangerous contact. This is physical play. Uh, it can happen a lot of places. I mean, dangerous contact could be really from anybody, dropping their shoulder and barreling into people. Now, that might be a charge, but if it's bad enough, I would be calling it dangerous contact and giving a card. Most times you see this are from behind where somebody takes a defenseless player who doesn't see them coming, who is trying to pick up a ball, and they basically just jam them up from behind, putting them to the ground. That would absolutely be dangerous contact and require a card. Now, all of these things, I will tell you, I don't see them called nearly enough in youth. These are the things that are going to get coaches and parents going crazy. You are better off calling a tight game and don't let these things happen. Don't try to be nice. It's not your job to, oh, they didn't mean it. It wasn't so bad. If you see it and it makes you cringe when you see it, it's a card. That's one of my gun. I always tell people if it made you cringe or makes you go ooh, chances are that's a card. And I can't tell you how many times I look at it I flinch and I sit there for a second and I say no, and then I'll blow it up and I'll card it because if you feel that foul, it was probably a card. Okay, discretionary cards. These are things that aren't mandatory. You get to decide whether or not this is important. Dangerous play. Anytime you see somebody doing something that you think is dangerous, it can be a card. The one that pops to mind is, let's say somebody's going to net. They got the ball. They're charging at the net, getting ready to shoot, and somebody just throws their leg or their knee out in their way. Now, you could say, okay, they tripped them. Well, yeah, it was a trip, and a trip would be a major foul. But in this case, that was absolutely unacceptable. I would call that dangerous play. Somebody was going to get hurt, so I would ring that up to a card. So any kind of dangerous play, you can think about it. Now, here's a good one, especially in youth: repeated major fouls. If somebody keeps doing something and they're not learning the lesson when you're calling them, foul after foul after foul, blowing your whistle and giving them, putting them four behind. If they're not getting the message, this is where you need to jump these things up to a yellow card. And I'll give you an example. A lot of times in youth, you will oftentimes have of the whole youth team, 90% of them are going to be running around looking at butterflies. And then you got the two kids, probably one of them's the coach's kid, who's been playing with their older brother for 6 years, and they're just dominating everybody. But they're also rough. And they're too rough for the level of play you're at. And they continuously keep, making body contact with their bodies, with their stick, and they just keep doing it. You keep calling foul after foul. This is where you need to elevate it and you need to start yellow carding it. And just so you're aware, if a person gets their second yellow card, they are out of that game. They are suspended from that game. And I'll be honest, there have been times where I have seen a player and I've told my partner, okay, she's dangerous, keep an eye. And we watch. And again, we will see if there's an opportunity to get a second yellow card because she is a danger to the game. So again, this is a management tool that you can use, but dangerous play certainly, or repeated major fouls is something you need to call. So you kind of got to keep an eye on who's making these fouls so that you can recognize that, okay, number 9 continues to do this, so you're going to get it. And then unsportsmanlike behavior can be verbal or physical. So obviously somebody swinging a stick at somebody swearing at somebody, a coach disrespecting you. All of these things absolutely are within your power to issue a yellow card, and don't be afraid to do it. I will tell you, as a youth official, there is no reason ever for a coach to say anything unkind to you, ever, ever, ever. Don't be afraid to ring them up with a yellow card. And if it gets worse, you give them a yellow card, and I guarantee the association will take care of it, because there is no reason. Now, I'm going to tell you, do not get in an argument. I mean, you never want to argue with a coach. You never want to say anything to a coach other than, what's in the rule book. But if anybody, coach or parent, is ever unkind to you in any way, you have the ability to issue a yellow card. And if it's a fan, there should be somebody on the field, a game manager from a team, who should be able to manage a crowd for you as well. So use the tools that are available to you. Do not take any kind of unsportsmanlike behavior from anyone. There's just not any reason. And you need to get good at it, because people will respect you for it, and it makes your job a heck of a lot easier. Okay, so how do you card somebody? I don't think this slide really works, but so we're going to talk about it. But basically, if you blow a whistle, the first thing, cards are going to take a while, so you're going to stop the clock. So you're going to blow the whistle, and you're going to do the timeout, which is two hands over your head, with wrists together, to timeout, because you're going to have the clock stopped. Now, in a little tiny kids game, you rarely see a card, so it's not an issue. But when you get up in the junior high stuff, you will see it, and there'll be a timer there who'll be able to stop it. So whistle it. And here with a card, I will tell you, as I told you, to practice with your whistle. There's going to be times where you're going to make a nice solid whistle. But when you're going to give a card, a lot of times you are going to blow it especially hard, because you want everybody to know somebody just did something wrong. Okay, so there's a lot of, kind of body language, whistle language that can be laid. You want everybody to know something unacceptable just happened. So a nice sharp blast that gets everybody's attention when you're going to give a card. So whistle, and then you're gonna time out, and you're going to put the card up. Okay, so you're going to take your yellow card, which we'll talk about equipment in a bit. You're going to put it up like this woman is doing, and you're going to signal. You're going to have to figure out, so you got to keep an eye, and this is not always easy, but you're going to figure out which player. You're going to have them come towards you. You're going to tell them, that you're off the field for 2 minutes, and you're going to report it to the table, whoever's timing, and they will write it down, that number 9, 2-minute yellow card for, a slash. Okay. Make sure the play, and a lot of times at the youth level, they don't understand. So you have to kind of point them, say you need to leave the field. You're going to sit in the penalty box or the substitution area for 2 minutes and get them to leave the field. Then you're going to set it up. Okay, setting up is easier now, because now you don't have the player. The player's over there in the substitution area serving their penalty. So you don't have anybody behind. Player who was fouled will get the ball, and you will whistle start it, with everybody else being 4 meters away. The one thing, and again, not so much at the youth, but as you get to middle school, you're going to want to have something to write with, because again, if somebody gets 2 yellow cards, they are suspended from the game. So you'll want to keep track of who you're issuing yellow cards to, so you don't forget. Because I've not very often had a table alert me when somebody had 2 cards. Some of the good ones do, but not very often. Okay, so some other fouls. Goal circle fouls by the attack, if the attack steps on or in the goal circle. So remember, lines in lacrosse are active, meaning, okay, if a ball hits on out of the boundary marker, it is out. If a person steps on the goal circle, they are in the goal circle. So stepping on or in the goal circle, if you are on attack, is a goal circle foul. That is an immediate whistle, and that would be a restart to the goalie. Okay, we talked about this reaching in the goal circle. except during a follow through of a shot. Now, at the youth level, and you'll need to check with the coaches. The younger kids, they don't allow them to follow through. It's kind of a pain because with one official, it's almost impossible to know that they did that. But I know there are younger kids that they do not allow a follow through. But I want to say at the middle school, they do allow them to follow through. But anybody who reaches in, and I used the example before where their goalie's trying to clear it and they're leaning their stick into that circle trying to defend them, that's a goal circle. You'll see somebody take a shot, the goalie will, deflect it. It'll be bouncing around in the goal circle, and they'll reach in, try to do something. That is a goal circle violation. Okay, by the defense, same thing. They can't step on or in. Only the goalkeeper can be in there, so they can't step on or in. So that would be a goal circle, and that would be a clear for the attack out over on the dot. Okay, we brought this up. Not clearing the ball within 10 seconds is a goal circle violation. Again, that would go to the dot. Okay, returning the ball to the goal circle a second time before it has been played. Okay, now thank God they changed this rule where it used to be you had to roll the ball or pass the ball into the circle. Now the goalkeeper can actually pick up a loose ball and actually return or go into the circle with that ball as long as it's the first time. If the goalkeeper has the ball in the circle, takes a step out, leaves the circle. Now, both feet would have, used to be even one toe out was out. Now they can actually have, as long as they have one foot in contact within the circle, they are still considered in. But if they leave the circle completely and then without the ball being played to another player, they can't go back in. Okay, they would have to pass it to another player. Player could pass it back to them, then they could go back in. If they have the ball and somebody checks their stick from the defense, checks their stick, they can go back in. But otherwise, they would have to have the ball played before they could go back. Okay, a defender, the last one here on the right side. If a defender, again, this is at middle school, if somebody was getting ready to shoot, a defender could actually get their stick up and try to check that stick being in the circle as long as it was defending that shooting action. But then again, that's an exception. Okay, this is what type of foul and where. Okay, foul occurred. Now, we talked about major and minor fouls. Major foul were the physical ones, the ones that were more physical, more to do with safety. So it's a steeper penalty, so to speak. That player who made that foul is going to go 4 meters behind. Okay, behind. Now, here's where the issue comes in. Nobody knows what 4 meters is. So, you say 4 meters and they go 2. No, 4 meters and they go 3. You got to teach them. So I would be active and you determine what 4 meters. If you have to pace it off early in the game so they can see what 4 meters is, by all means doing that. But by all means do that. But 4 meters, they are entitled to that 4 meters, and they are entitled to truly 4 meters. That doesn't mean they could be 4 meters away and holding their stick out towards the ball carrier. It's everything. That player with the ball is entitled to a true 4 meter circle around themselves. Okay, so behind, and it's behind in the direction of their own goal. Okay, so if the ball's coming up, they need to move behind where the person is heading towards goal. Okay, so if you drew a line, I'll show you. That'll be a field thing we'll look at. Okay, minor foul is 4 meters away. So it's really in the direction. So if somebody, let's say we have a cover and they're coming in, they cover it, you're going to give it to the player who didn't cover it, and that player is just going to move in the direction they were coming 4 meters away. Now, it's getting harder and harder now with not false starts, but free starts, self starts, sorry. People aren't waiting for all this to happen. So you're sitting there trying to get them to go 4 meters away and your ball carrier takes off. which is perfectly legal now, as long as they came to a pause with where that foul took place. They are entitled to self-start, and they can do it at any time they want. As soon as they pause, they can go. Now, do they always make a best decision? No, but the problem becomes as soon as they self-start, the defense can engage, meaning the defense doesn't have to give them 4 meters anymore. They can immediately engage. So think about it this way. Let's say I was just fouled. I say, okay, four behind, number 22, you're 4 behind. And before you can even move, right now you're standing right there in front of the player with the ball who got fouled. And I'm saying 4 behind, and that player with the ball takes off. That player that's standing right in front of them can immediately engage and stick check or do whatever immediately. So, a lot of times it's do they make the right decision, to self-start? Because remember, they are entitled to that 4 meters. They can self-start if they see an opportunity and they want to move quickly. They can do that because a lot of times you don't want to give the defense a chance to adapt and to set up. So they move quickly. But if they want to, they can sit there and wait for that player to move 4 meters away or 4 meters behind, depending. They can wait for that. Okay, once they're comfortable, then they can self-start. The last option is they can absolutely wait until you blow your whistle. So I could sit there, say 4 meters behind, the person moves behind, sets up at 4 meters, they're still waiting, I will blow my whistle, and they have to go at that point. So it all depends, but self-start makes it a little bit interesting. So you have to make sure that you're keeping it fair. Players must make an effort to move away. They can't just stand there and wait, okay? They must make an effort. And if they're not making the effort, you could call a delay a game, and that would become a foul at some point. And that could become a card at some point if they continue to do it. So okay, and it's going to depend where on the field is the foul, whether it's midfield, critical scoring area, or in the 8-meter arc. Okay, let's see, mechanics. We want to be clear and consistent. I've already talked about that. Good whistles, good signals if you can. One thing I will tell you is, I would prefer, if you're going to blow your whistle, I want you to stop. I don't want you to continue walking. I want you to blow the whistle, stop, face everyone, and let them know what happened. Give them the signal, give them the direction. Don't walk around. Walking around and with your head down, kind of you don't look like you have command. Blow the whistle and stop. Give that direction. Let everybody know you know exactly what happened, what direction it's going, and what's going to happen next. Okay, directional signal followed by, okay, bigger is better. They talk about stadium signals. They want big signals, big up high, so everybody can see them. They talk about use the signals we have. Don't make stuff up. There are people who have a tendency to make up their own signals. If you use the signals in the book, or if you don't know the signal, tell people what a slash, check to the head, be clear, and then sell your call. And that includes everything. I said, nice clear whistle, nice clear direction, standing still, standing straight, looking confident. And then I mentioned this, real early, be in the right position. If you're in the right position to make the call, if you're right there at the goal when somebody's going and gets fouled, people are going to believe your call a heck of a lot more than you're trying to blow your whistle from 30 yards away. People will have a tendency not to believe that. So I tell you, honestly, even if you're wrong, if you're in the right position, people are going to give you the benefit of the doubt and assume that you are right. So sell it. Being in the right place helps a lot. Okay, self-start, we talked a little bit about already. They have the right to self-start. We talked about, the three they can self-start immediately. They can wait for the player to move away. They can actually wait for your whistle. Got come closer to 8, so I'm going to move along. I'm not sure what some of these things are. We talked about them. Okay, talking about youth is still required that momentary pause with the ball. I'm betting that's going to change in the next couple of years because they changed it at high school and college this year, finally. Uh, because it's just kind of it disrupts the flow of the game. In youth, it's going to help to let them start learning the fouls and what they just did. But in high school and college, they figured that, okay, there's no reason to really stop people as long as the foul has been registered. Okay, when can you self-start? As long as it's outside the critical scoring area, anywhere on the field, typically, as long as it's not in that 12 and 8 meter area, you can self-start. As long as the clock is running, and in youth, it's always going to be running basically, so that's not going to be hard. Uh, and make sure that the ball is within approximately 4 meters. I always look and say, okay, if they pick up the ball where they are they disadvantaging the defense? I mean, if the ball has rolled 30 yards towards the net and they run down and pick it up and keep going, that's giving a major disadvantage to the defense. That you can't do that. I would blow the whistle, bring them back, and restart that. But generally, it's supposed to be near the place where the foul occurred. If your gut says they're too far away and that they gained an advantage by starting there, probably need to blow it back, bring it back. Okay, we already talked about this. All right, we talked about when it's not an option. You can't self-start after a card because we have the clock stopped, remember. Injury timeouts, the clock is stopped. You can't do that. Offsides is you stop the clock for offside, so you can't self-start then. Okay, offensive fouls and any foul in the critical scoring area, you can't self-start. Okay, you're always going to blow the whistle. Alternate possession is going to be, you can't self-start. Inadvertent whistle is going to be not a self-start. And when a goal is scored, okay. And then it's talking proactive officiating. I will tell you that usually when someone cannot self-start, I will say it's a whistle, it's a whistle, it's a whistle, because they'll ask you, "Can I self-start?" It's a whistle. So if you know, I mean, it's going to be a whistle, tell them that. Say this is going to be a whistle, and you'll save yourself a lot of restarts. Okay, we talked about this. Talked about this. Okay, this is important, and this is going to save you, and maybe this will be the last thing we potentially talk about for tonight. Uh, After a foul is called and you're going to set them up, there's some question, especially at youth, when the restart happens. Let's say you've taken a ball, you've got it to your player that was fouled, you give them their 4 meters, whether it's away or behind. When can the defense engage? And I will tell you, I mean, inevitably, you got the defense jumping in, and it gets to be such a pain that they constantly, they're not getting far away, and or they're jumping in or reaching in almost immediately. The player with the ball must move out of their settled stance. They must essentially make a step. So if they pivot and take a step, defense can engage. But until they do that, they cannot engage. They can pass the ball, but until they actively pass the ball leaves their stick, defense cannot engage. So that's something you want to watch early on and closely, because what you're going to have is, number one, they're not going to be moving, they're not going to be far away, which is critical. And then they're going to be moving in too quickly. And just the fact that somebody's sitting there, cradling the ball, you're going to have people trying to engage. So I would encourage you, be very clear, use your whistle early on, and keep reminding them. And if they keep doing it, you yellow card them. I mean, you can yellow card them for failure to, just misconduct because they're not paying attention, repeated fouls. So again, that's going to be something you're going to have to deal with. Okay, no rocking motion, cradling, pumping action. Okay, well, it's 8 o'clock. I'm gonna make a note of where we ended. I don't want to hold you longer. I know it's been a long time and I've been talking a lot. What I would encourage you to do, let's figure out, get your rule book, review your rule book, uh, make sure you get the youth rule comparison and that. Uh, oh, one thing I did forget that I would like you to get, when you go to US Lacrosse, you're going to have to go to your own profile. And then you're going to go under rules and resources. And I want you to open up and save the 2024 officials manual. The manual is a whole different book than the rule book. The manual is the best resource. I didn't find it for like 2 years when I started. And when all of a sudden I did, I spend way more time in that manual than I do the rule book, because it actually tells you all of the situations, all of the setups, all of the decision making. So go find that 2024 girls lacrosse manual, officials manual, and get that. Now, you're not, it's like 150 pages, so you're probably not going to print it. But if you save it, I save it on my iPad as a book, then I can use it and I can search it. But that's something else. So I'd like you to go and get that and review that as well. So with that, it's 8 o'clock. I appreciate it. I hope everybody got something out of this, and I'll see you again on the 18th. And any questions before we sign off?
Yeah, sorry, quick question here. Could you repeat where we would be able to find that manual?
Okay, you're going to have to be a US Lacrosse member.
Right.
You're going to go into your profile, and you can go, I think it's under your profile. I think you might go to your transcript,
Okay.
and it'll show all this stuff that's available. And if you search down there, uh, you should find there's a whole list of stuff that you have access to as an official, and it's the 2024 girls lacrosse officials manual.
Got it. All right. All right, I see it. Thank you.
All right, cool. All right, anybody else? All right, bring your questions back for next time too. We'll if you have questions from what we didn't get to or I wasn't